Today I am going to be doing a quick impromptu video on the California First Year Students Exam and UCC using an essay example. First, I'm going to give you a little background information and say that it's your luck that I had an appointment canceled today. I still am kind of doing this totally impromptu, and I will do another UCC video later. But basically, let me give you a quick rundown. So UCC is the Uniform Commercial Code, and it is something that is used in the United States for to kind of like make the laws equal. All the states have adopted except for I think Louisiana, and Louisiana did adopt portions of it. And basically, it is to deal with businesses. Now, there's Article 1 and Article 2 that you're to be responsible for on the babybar, according to their website. Let's just do a quick double check on what they say. First year, I'm not, again, this is a live one, so California Bar Exam. Gosh, DuckDuckGo is not as intuitive as the other. So basically, I'm going to show you an essay that uses it, and I'll tell you the subjects I'm the strongest at are probably contracts, just regular contracts, and everybody's got their weakness. So the first year exam. Let's see which portions of UCC, because normally you don't take UCC, but you need to know like Article 2 governs goods that are movable, but you need to be responsible for Article 1 and Article 2. Wait a minute, examinations, first year exam grading and scope, that's where it would be. Okay, here. Let's double check what they're saying. Scope. Where's scope? Come on. Oh, here it is. All subjects covered in the exam are contracts, criminal law, torts. See, it doesn't say constitutional law. It doesn't say civil procedure. Civil procedure's on the regular bar. Constitutional law is a typical first-year subject in traditional law schools. You don't really need to be responsible for that. I took constitutional law, so I don't. But anyway, so basically what you have to do is know Article 1 and Article 2 where pertinent. So they know that you don't have to know all the details, but you might want to know a couple of the ones that are big, like the Battle of the Forums. I think it's 2207 off the top of my head. So let's take a look. Article 1, basically, let's look at what they say here. Just a quick rundown. So Article 2 is the movement of goods. Let me close this out. So basically, there's these general provisions. By the way, they have made changes, but since it's not adopted across the board, some of this wasn't updated. And also, oh gosh, I'm sorry, there's some noisy people outside. I don't know if that's a chainsaw or what. Anyway, I don't know if the microphone's picking it up. Sometimes it cancels out the background noise. Okay, so basically they talk about the purpose, the policy, and the applicability of the law. So it's commercial. Think about commercial law. They have sections in here on the use of singular, plural, and gender. So, for example, here they're saying, unless in statutory context, words in singular number include plural, and those in plural include singular, and any gender also refers to any other gender. So, for example, if they say he, they're not being sexist and excluding females, okay? They're just using pronouns that are neutral. and sometimes they'll substitute one for the other. So as far as regular English goes, they're kind of laying out the verbiage. As far as electronic signatures goes, this is where you have communications in a contract, and like with real estate law and contracts and whatnot, you can sign electronically. You could look at 108. Okay, they just have so many ads on here, guys. I'm not allowed to put that in. This article modifies, limits, and supersedes the Federal Electronic Signatures in Global and National Commerce Act. Okay, so basically I had to learn that for my digital marketing master's degree, but I have snippets here and there of law. So you're going to have a different angle on it, right? You're a law student, you're trying to take the bar, maybe you're a foreign attorney. The United States of America has what's called the Uniform Commercial Code. Just look it over and then apply it to the fact patterns. As you don't even have to say 2205 Battle of the Forms or whatever. Let's look at this one because that has a lot of ads. Hopefully this won't. Uniform Law Commission. Okay, this is the commission. It was formed in 1892 to create uniform commercial laws, uniform negotiable instruments. By the way, they also have, like, with Article 1, it lays forth the foundation for forms or contracts for business. And this is giving a background of the the code background in the United States. So they had maritime law, merchant law, but they also had, non-conforming goods, and deals between merchants and all that sort of thing. So here's they're giving a rundown, and it doesn't have a lot of ads, so let's look through here. So Article 2 concerns itself with sales. So how do sales work out in the baby bar or the regular bar? They're going to give you a fact pattern, and you're going to have to discern. You're going to have to pick out the issues, and you're going to have to pick out the applicable rule of law. You're going to need to do an analysis, and you're going to have to keep your facts straight, and you're going to do it in the right order that they want you to do it, and you got to get your timing down when you're writing your essay or doing your multiple choice questions. So let's take a look. You don't need to do 2A, which is leases, or Article 3, which is negotiable instruments, bank deposits, all this other stuff. You don't need to know that. Okay, all you need to know is just like some really basic stuff. And again, I could probably go through my outline and show you my outlines that I use, but this is from, let's see, this is a fact pattern, okay? So let's say you're doing essays. This is from last June. They'll tell you right now, the bar tends to rotate with the baby bar. I think this year it's 28th or something, I don't know. It's in a couple of weeks. The bar they rotate the questions they're giving, and last time in October they had 2 criminal law questions. So do you think they're going to do 2 criminal laws again? I don't know, but I have a feeling they're going to probably rotate it. So if you look at this, you got a question. Where's the front of this? Wait a minute. These are the instruction. Okay, here's the front. Contracts, torts, criminal law, contracts. Now, if I was designing the bar myself personally, and I'm doing the baby bar next, I would probably do 2 torts questions. That's personally me. I mean, if I was on the bar of committees, because I want to rotate them around. So in the fall, they had 2 criminal laws, right, for 2021. This past summer, they had 2 contracts, which would have been right before the fall, and now we're back into the next year. So what did we do the next June? Do we do 2 contracts again? Or do we do 2 criminal law like we did in the fall, or do we do 2 torts? So it's going to be sort of, they're going to rotate what they're going to do. You know what your weaknesses are. You know what your strengths are. Every time you study, every time you apply yourself, you learn more and more and more. Every time you practice, it flows faster and better and more. Occasionally, if you're tired or something, you might get stumped. So here we have the June 2021. What you want to do with your essays is you want to try to have the instructions and pay attention to them, okay? So here it says, your answer should demonstrate your ability to analyze the facts in the question, tell the difference between material facts and immaterial facts, and discern the points of the law and fact upon which the case turns. Your answer should show you know and understand the pertinent principles and theories of law, their qualifications and limitations, and their relationships to each other. Your answer should evidence your ability to apply the law to the given facts and to reason in a logical, lawyer-like manner. From the premises, you adopt a sound conclusion. Do not merely show that you remember the legal principles. Instead, try to demonstrate your proficiency in using and applying them. If your answer contains only a statement of your conclusions, you will receive little or no credit. In other words, you could be right. You could make a conclusion that's probably right, but you're not going to get credit because you're not breaking it out, showing that you know the elements of the law. You're not showing your work. You're not showing your analysis. It says state fully the reasons to support your conclusions and discuss the points of law. So, should I highlight that? Whoops. Anyway, so answer according to legal theories and principles of general application. So you need to know, I'm sure when you took criminal law, they talked about the different theories of justice, retributive justice, and that sort of thing. Well, when you talk about the principles of law, you might want to interject a little bit of the philosophy behind the law when you're explaining your conclusion. And when you're doing your contract law, this is question 1. Let's look at this. This is a UCC question. And there's 2 model answers here. And if you want, you can slow it down and read it out loud slowly and quickly. You can also go on the California Bar website and look for the questions and answers and download this yourself. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown synopsis. I'm not going to read it line by line. I'm going to tell you that it's a contract question that's a UCC question. And it's not going to expect you to memorize every single detail of UCC. It's expecting you to know a certain modicum that you would learn in a general contract law questions. Like, you didn't take UCC in depth. They know you're not reading all that. They know you're just a first-year student. So they're going to ask you a question that might include UCC. They're saying, look, there's going to be UCC on here because contracts include UCC. They include the fact that UCC Article 2 governs the movable goods, right? You also need to learn, if it's both of them are merchants, right? And you have to know about the predominant factor test if it's a mixed contract, if it's a service and a good, right? So even though you didn't take property law or real estate law, if it was a real estate contract that they were talking about, you would still have a surface understanding and be able to sort it out. They're not trying to trick you. They're just trying to see if you can grasp these concepts well enough to go on and stay on the attorney track. And if you need extra help and you can't get this done in the third time, third time it's available after you finish your first year of study or you're in your under a lawyer study, then you're going to have to either sit out or you're going to have to, keep taking it until you pass it. And it's up to you if you want to keep spending your money, but you have to study in order to do it. So anyway, so here's the UCC, right? And we're talking about UCC with regard to the baby bar. So the baby bar is harder than the regular bar for a first-year student because it includes subjects that you really are just having a surface knowledge of, and the questions might be intimidating. But they're not that intimidating if you just calmly look at them, because basically you will have learned about this element of the UCC in your first year contracts class. I took first year contracts, and I took contracts uh, many times, so that's why it's one of my stronger subjects, because I took it in a graduate program, and I took it as a real estate agent, and I took it as a um, um, law student. So, but a lot of times I've spoken with other students, and they're very like, this isn't fair. They're asking civil procedure questions. They're asking remedies questions. I didn't have remedies. Well, if you read the cases and you brief them, you are briefing cases that show the remedies. It's just that you don't have a real good command of it yet, and it's not like second nature yet. But it will with practice. They just want to know if you have 70% knowledge of what a lawyer would have that was taking the regular bar on this type of question, but it's using just the first year contracts, which you should have known if you got an A or 90 to 100%. So they're just taking the cream of the crop. Okay? You can be the cream of the crop if you apply yourself, I hope. So anyway, there's a timeline here. You might need to take some notes. And it has this drones dry cleaning van, and they're business to business. So they ask you a very broad question: will the buyer prevail? Discuss. So basically, there's this car that they're selling the old van, but the van gets sold. And so, but the guy detrimentally relies on that. Okay, he goes to get a mechanic to look at the van, and he goes out and he buys a new set of tires, I believe. I read this. I was gonna. Anyway, so you can go pull this out and read the whole thing. I'm kind of skimming it for you because, to be honest with you, I just wanted to kind of give you the idea of what someone does with the model answer. Now it says here, applicable law. I wouldn't write mine this way. I would start it out with a different way. And I would say Uniform Commercial Code Article 2 controls agreements for the sale of goods. And I wouldn't say all other law agreements are controlled by common law, because I know that's not completely true, but that's close enough, right? This is a passing answer. It's one of the better answers. So, okay, so applicable law, it doesn't have to be perfect. They're telling the law that it's under. So I usually put formation at the top. And then I'd say which law governs, UCC or common law. You know, you can write it whatever way you want. You don't want to use too much time. You have to standard of conduct. They go right to this issue of standard of conduct. So UCC Article 1 does talk about the parties are going to be held in good faith. If you look here on UCC, okay, so that's Article 2, general provisions in here. I just know this off the top of my head. Shoot. Well, anyway, you can look it up, and it does say that it's assumed to that both parties act in good faith. So then you have the merchants. Under UCC, a merchant is someone who presents himself as having special knowledge or skill in the subject matter, or who normally deals with the subject matter of the agreement. Here, the subject matter of the agreement is a van. See, that's very good. They're showing their work. They're showing the details. You got to do that. You got to show the details. Parties involved are a plumbing business owner and a lawn service owner. So you're showing that you're using logical reasoning, and it says neither regularly or normally deals with vans or autos, okay? So that's not, they're not merchants for that. Moreover, the facts indicate the parties presented themselves as having special knowledge or skill. So therefore, neither the buyer or the seller are considered merchants under UCC. So they're already telling you that this is a private, not like a commercially, it's not covered by, this nuance of the contract is not covered really completely by UCC as far as merchants dealing with one another. It's a common law sort of quasi type of dealing. So now, and here's the thing, is this a promise or is this a breach of contract? Did they have a contract? It was an oral agreement. I'm going to keep the van available and then, oh, I forgot I sold it to somebody else. Formation under common law. An offer is outward manifestation of present contractual intent in clear and precise terms to communicate to the offeree as to create in him/her a belief that the offeror is willing to enter into a contract. It's a very good thing, the way they wrote this. Now, see, I would have started at the very top with the formation and then gone into the applicable law, and I do offer acceptance, consideration, and is it an invitation to deal? Like, I would have chopped it up a little differently, but I mean, this is just an example of a really well written first year level answer, right? So, okay, it says under common law, an offer must include quantity, time of performance, identity of the parties, price, and subject matters. That's the Q-tips acronym that we use for contracts, right? Under UCC, an offer is an invitation to deal with invitees' acceptance in any reasonable means under the circumstances. Moreover, under UCC, an offer does not fail for indefiniteness as long as it contains the quantity amount. Here on Monday, the seller sent an email to the buyer stating, now, what goes off in your head the minute you hear email? Do you think about the mailbox rule? Okay, so let's just continue. That she would sell him/her old van for $15K. Hey, by the way, put your comments below if you have any insights or anything you want to add. Okay, so subject matter, price, quantity, term necessary. Okay, so I could just, so under common law, so this person's going back and forth under UCC, under common law, under UCC, under common law. So, I mean, this is a exemplary passing first year answer. Now, if you took the regular bar, would that be an exemplary example one? I don't know. Okay, so under common law, an acceptance is an outward manifestation of unequivocal assent to the terms of the offer. Under UCC, a definite and seasonable acceptance operates as an acceptance. See, this is very good the way they wrote it. They're showing they know the law, okay? Here, buyer immediately responded to seller's offer stating that he was interested, but asking to be given until Sunday to decide. Because buyer expressed interest but did not express any type of acceptance, his email likely does not constitute an acceptance under UCC. So notice how he says likely does not constitute. This is sort of hitting the nail on the head and showing also that it could be arguable. Now, UCC 2205, Merchants Firm Offer. They have this UCC memorized, 2205. Let's go take a look and see how close they got to it. We can go look it up. UCC 2205. 2205. And we can probably find firm offers, Uniform Commercial Code 206. What it is, how it works, legal meaning and law definition, Quimby. Justa, Part 2, firm offers. So right off the bat in 202, you can memorize that firm offer, right? So this is 2002. By the way, they did change the law, and not all states have adopted the updated law. So that's not even there. 205. Now, Part 3 you don't need to know, according to what they say. You just need to know 2 and 1, but offer and acceptance, firm offers. So formation in general, this is the way it's written in the code. An offer by a merchant to buy or sell goods in a signed writing, which by its terms gives assurance that it will be held open, is not revocable for lack of consideration during the time stated, or if no time is stated, for a reasonable time. But in no event may such period of irrevocability exceed 3 months. But any such term of assurance on a form supplied by the offeree must be separately signed by the offerer. So what is he saying here? He's saying, under UCC, an offer in writing by a merchant stating that an offer will be held open for a certain period of time not to exceed 3 months does not require consideration and must be held open for such time. Otherwise, an offer to hold an offer open for a certain period of time by a non-merchant requires additional consideration. So they've already established that they're not merchants really, right? So here, after receiving the buyer's email stating he was interested in the van but asking until Sunday to decide, so it's not even a question of the mailbox rule, is it? Because it wasn't really an acceptance, right? Because on dispatch, right? Possible revocation. An offer is revocable by the offerer before acceptance. The offerer is the master of the offer, right? So here on Tuesday evening, the seller sent da-da-da-da-da. Here on Wednesday, see how they break it apart? Oh, here, they've got the mailbox rule in here. Okay, so under common law and UCC, acceptance is effective on dispatch. Correctamundo. Therefore, buyer's acceptance of seller's offer was effective the moment he placed his acceptance in the letter on mail on Wednesday. Wait, did he send a letter too? Wait, okay. Here on Wednesday, buyer mailed a letter stating he agreed to buy the van for $15,000. Okay, so I'm skimming through this, and when I saw the email, I thought of the mailbox rule, but if it wouldn't really apply unless he had accepted, and he did accept in a regular snail mail letter. Attempted revocation. Under common law and UCC, a revocation after acceptance is not valid. Here on Thursday, seller sent buyer an email informing him that she had sold the van to Jones Dry Cleaning. Seller's email is an attempted revocation of her offer to the buyer. However, because seller's attempted revocation was done after buyer had already accepted the offer, it is invalid. Thus, there is an offer and an acceptance. There is mutual assent by the parties. Under both common law and UCC, consideration is a bargain for exchange of legal detriment or for legal benefit. Here, seller and buyer bargained for such an exchange. Seller was selling her old van, gaining $15,000. Buyer was given his $15,000 for the old van. Therefore, there was adequate consideration. Thus, a contract for purchase-sale of seller's old van to buyer was formed. Statute of Frauds. Under common law and UCC, the following types of agreement must be enforceable to be must be in writing to be enforceable. Contracts for sale of land, contracts in consideration of marriage, contracts which can't be completed within a year, suretyships and contracts for good over 500 or more. Here the contract is for the sale of goods because it involves selling and purchase of a van. Moreover, the selling purchase prices of the van is $15,000, which is well above $500 required by the Statute of Frauds. Therefore, the contract falls within the Statute of Frauds. However, the Statute of Frauds is satisfied because there are multiple writings, emails between the seller and buyer signed by each, but specifically seller, which constitutes sufficient memoranda. Remedies. Monetary damages. Buyer will be entitled to monetary damages he incurs for not being able to purchase the seller's van and having to purchase a van elsewhere. Cover. Equitable relief. Specific performance is not available under the facts indicated. Mitigation of damages. Now you see how they didn't go into detail over the remedies that much. First of all, they have an hour for each essay. Second of all, they haven't really taken remedies in the first year subjects, although they've touched upon them. They have enough of a surface knowledge that they should know. Now let's look at answer B. Governing law. They're doing the same thing. They're going governing law, merchants, contract formation, offer, seller's email Monday, acceptance. Is the offer revocable? Merchant's firm offer, detrimental reliance. Do you see the headings there? The mailbox rule. Seller's email on Tuesday evening. So an acceptance is valid upon dispatch. Rejections and counteroffers are valid upon receipt. This is a very clear description of the law and concise on the mailbox rule. The other one was much more detailed, but this one is written differently. The style is different. You don't have to follow the exact same style. Seller's email. Here the seller attempted to revoke the offer by sending an email to the buyer stating the seller found another buyer willing to pay more for the van. The buyer will contend that they did not read the email, so there was no receipt of the revocation. Seller will argue that if the email was sent to the buyer's inbox, that is a valid receipt, and the buyer had a duty to read. Buyer will argue that this was not a revocation because it said Jones Dry Cleaning might be interested, and the email was not clear that the offer was revoked. Additionally, buyer will argue that this was not a valid revocation because of buyer's detrimental reliance. Therefore, this was not a valid revocation. So basically, the buyer bought tires and had the mechanic look it over and then sent a mail letter. So then they go the buyer's email on Wednesday. And then they put consideration, defenses to formation, statute of frauds, goods, anticipatory repudiation, but they're underlining and highlighting that there is a valid contract. They're saying the statute of frauds is satisfied. And then there's anticipatory repudiation and the seller is in breach. Okay, and then defenses to breach, impossibility. Now, did the other answer put in the defenses to the breach? Did they go back and forth on what they would argue? This is a very good answer in that it's showing lawyer-like thought patterns and logic, and both of them are, but you know, they're slightly different writing styles. The English is very good here. They're writing nicely. If the contract is theoretically unable to be performed by anyone due to an unexpected event occurring after the contract was made, then this defense may be used. Here, the seller will argue, Because the van was sold to someone else, it was impossible for the seller to sell the van to buyer. Seller will argue that the van was sold before acceptance was received and the contract was already impossible. Buyer will argue that this was not an unexpected event occurring after the contract was made. Seller will contend that they were not aware of the acceptance because they believed that they had revoked the offer on Tuesday and were not aware that buyer had detrimentally relied on the offer. So this is showing that this defense will likely succeed. They're both deemed to have done so in good faith. Impracticability, okay, so they're going over the different defenses. An unexpected event occurs after the contract is made, makes performance of the contract highly impracticable. The defense may be raised. Here's the difference in price can be argued as making the sale of the van to the buyer impractical, but pure economic impracticability is not valid unless the seller would be taking a large loss. Therefore, the defense is not valid. Frustration of purpose won't apply. So they're basically going through the defenses to contracts, but they're saying, look, I know about this, but it doesn't really apply. So you don't really need to do that. Do not waste time putting in stuff that doesn't really apply unless it's an issue. Or are they asking you the defenses? I don't know. Expectation damages are the remedies. Reliance damages. Specific performance. Now, specific performance requires the breaching party to perform the contracts. It's used when money damages are insufficient. Here, money damages are not sufficient and the van has been sold to a bona fide purchaser, so there's no way for the seller to perform. Therefore, there will be no specific performance ordered. Okay, so as you can see, I just skimmed through these. I didn't go over the whole, read every single paragraph verbatim. But you can see, if you go look at the other answers, or if you see them, you will see that they have a pretty good grasp of the law, and they both are coming to just about the same conclusion, right? So it says the buyer has a duty to try to mitigate the damages. Now this is not on the other ones. So they just said monetary damages, equitable relief, and mitigation of damages. This person came up with a sort of a deeper understanding on the law in some ways that the other one didn't. But they're both correct. This is a little bit more succinct, and it also includes defenses. The question was very broad. Let's take a look at the call of the question again. If you remember, it's a very long fact pattern. It takes up almost a whole page. Okay? And it shows that it was in writing, right? And it's showing a timeline on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, email, the back and forth, what type of contract it was. So it's covering a lot of different topics, but it says, will buyer prevail? It doesn't even say the buyer. So basically on Friday, the seller received a letter from the buyer and immediately sent an email to the buyer repeating that the van had already been sold. Seller fails to deliver the van to buyer. Buyer sues seller for breach of contract. So your question is, did the seller breach the contract? Did they have a contract? Will the buyer prevail? This one person put in the defenses that the seller would have, the remedies for the buyer. Both of them put in remedies. And applicable law, formation of contract, sorting out whether or not they're merchants, what type of contract it was, and so on and so forth. So But it says UCC controls this agreement. But what if it's really sort of a little of both, you know? So there you go. The UCC is not going to be too hard, and you don't have to know these, but you might want to jot down or the UCC basics, like 2207. Oh, it doesn't want to show it. Okay, so this is a anyway. There's a whole list of the UCC. Oh, my contracts book. I was looking in my contracts general book, and in the back of my contracts, it's not a horn book. It's like a case book combination horn book. I looked in the back, and it's just a general contracts, and in the back of it, it has all of UCC. And that was for a first-year contracts class. So I don't know what you're working out of, but I'll tell you, there's some basic references in there, and this is doable, and it can be done with practice if you are reasonably intelligent. And they do have accommodations if you have some challenges. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.